Oh no, no, stay with me, baby, look at me. Just hang on, please, we are almost there. Please, God, help us!
Go on inside!
Please help, my baby isn't breathing! Get a crash cart now!
The rain hit the windshield like gunfire the night her son's fever climbed past 104. Adaeze ran 3 red lights, getting him to CORM General, one hand gripping the wheel, the other reaching back every few seconds just to feel him breathing. Stay with me, baby. Stay with me, we're almost there. Kian's head lolled against the car seat, his lips moving without sound. She screamed his name until the hospital lights finally swallowed the windshield whole. She burst through the emergency doors soaked to the bone, shouting for a doctor, and the first face she saw under the fluorescent lights was the last one she ever expected to see again. Kang Tae-Joon, not as a stranger passing through. His company had funded the hospital's new pediatric wing, and he was there for photographs nobody wanted at midnight, standing in a tailored coat that had no business being in an emergency room. Their eyes met over a screaming toddler and a nurse calling for backup, and for one full second, neither of them could speak. Adaeze. His voice came out like something he hadn't let himself say in 3 years. She didn't answer him. Please, somebody help him, please. Tae-Joon didn't think. He moved. Before security could stop him, he was at her side, one arm holding her up as her knees buckled, his voice cutting through the noise of the ward like he still owned the building, because in a way, he did. Move. I don't care who's on call. Get the head of pediatrics down here right now. People listened to him the way people always listen to men with his kind of money. For once, he used it for something other than punishing himself. If you've ever driven through red lights praying, hit like right now, because this story only gets heavier from here. They got Kian stabilized, and 4 in his small arm, a cooling pad against his forehead, his breathing finally even under the harsh light. Adaeze sat frozen in a plastic chair, and it was only then, watching the boy's chest rise and fall, that Tae-Joon really looked at his face for the first time. His own mother's eyes stared back at him from a child he had never met. Whose son is this? It wasn't a question. It came out like a demand with his voice shaking. He's mine. That's all you need to know. Adaeze. Whose son is this? You lost the right to ask me that the day you signed the papers. Comment, I knew it. If you already guessed what she's not saying. 3 years earlier, none of this had felt possible. Tae-Joon and Adaeze had been married 18 months, still learning each other's coffee orders, still leaving notes on mirrors, when his cousin Minjun walked into a family dinner with a folder of grainy photographs and a story about a woman who looked like her meeting another man at a hotel downtown. Grandmother Kang didn't ask for proof. She'd never wanted Adaeze in the family to begin with. She was never one of us. I told you this would happen. Tae-Joon was drowning in a merger that month, running on 4 hours of sleep a night. And when the woman he loved swore up and down that the photos were lies, he told himself he didn't have the bandwidth to fight his own family over something he couldn't be sure of. That was the sin the rest of this story refuses to let him forget. Not that he believed the lie completely, but that he never even gave her the chance to look him in the eye and answer for it. I begged you to just look at me, Adaeze told him now, in the sterile quiet of a hospital hallway, her voice raw in a way that had nothing left to hide. Just look at me and ask if it was true. You didn't even give me that. I know, Tae-Joon said, staring at his sleeping son through the glass. I know what I did. She had signed the divorce papers 3 weeks pregnant, a truth she never got the chance to tell him, because by then he had already stopped answering her calls. Her hand hadn't shaken when she signed her name. That was the part that haunted her now, remembering how calm she'd been, how she had already decided that day that she would raise this baby without needing a single thing from the Kang family. I didn't need your name to keep him alive. I needed mine. Word got back to Minjun fast that Tae-Joon had seen the boy, and that was when the real danger started, because Minjun hadn't lied about the affair out of simple jealousy. He needed his cousin single, distracted, and easy to steer while he pushed through a hostile stock move against Kang Global Holdings. A secret son changed everything. If Grandmother Kang ever learned there was an heir with Adaeze's blood running through him, Minjun's entire plan would collapse overnight. You will not tell her about the boy, Minjun warned, smiling for the cameras in the hallway outside his office. Voice dropped low enough that only Tae-Joon could hear it. Grandmother's health can't take another scandal. He's my son, Minjun. There's no version of this where I stay quiet. There's a version where you lose the company. Choose carefully. Type family over money. If you think Tae-Joon should burn it all down for his son. He chose his son. He started showing up outside Adaeze's small apartment near the market district, uninvited, standing in the cold with takeout he knew Kian liked, just trying to buy 5 more minutes with a boy who was already 5 years behind on knowing him. Adaeze resisted, not out of spite, but because she had already buried this man once. I already grieved you, she told him through a half-open door. I'm not doing it twice, and I'm definitely not doing it in front of him. But Kian, who had never had a father, started asking the kind of questions no 5-year-old should have to ask. Why does that man look at me like he's sad and happy at the same time? Into all of this walked Hannah, the woman grandmother Kang had arranged for Tae-Joon to marry, a merger disguised as an engagement meant to consolidate 2 family fortunes. She wasn't a villain waiting for her cue. She was a woman being used exactly the same way Adaeze once had been, and she knew it better than anyone. When she found out about Kian before grandmother Kang did, she had a choice: expose him to protect her own position, or risk everything to help a woman she'd never even met. She chose to help. I'm not in love with him, Hannah admitted to Adaeze over untouched coffee, in a cafe neither of them had wanted to be sitting in. I never was. But if his grandmother finds out about your son before he's ready to protect you both, she will bury you. I've seen her do it before. Then the story broke anyway, not from Minjun, but from a nurse who'd recognized the Kang family's eyes on a feverish little boy and sold the tip to a tabloid before sunrise. By morning, headlines were everywhere: the Kang heir's secret son with his ex-wife. Reporters swarmed Adaeze's apartment building. Kian, terrified by the noise and the cameras through the window, tugged on her sleeve and asked the question that broke her. Are we in trouble? If that line hit you in the chest, drop a heart in the comments and stay with me, because this is only the middle. Tae-Joon arrived in the middle of the chaos and did something he had never done in 3 years of hiding behind glass office windows. He stood in front of the cameras, in front of his own family's legacy, and said it plainly. This is my son. I don't care what it costs me. Grandmother Kang watched from the back seat of her car, and for the first time in the entire story, her face cracked, not with anger, but with something closer to memory. Later, alone with Tae-Joon, she told him a story she had never told anyone in the family, about a man she had loved once, before duty made her give him up. I didn't want you to survive what I survived. I only knew one way to protect you. I was wrong. Minjun, cornered and running out of moves, played his last card. He leaked doctored financial records suggesting Adaeze had accepted money years ago to stay quiet about the affair, painting her as a woman who'd engineered the entire secret child scandal for a payday. It was a lie built directly on top of the original lie. I have spent 3 years serving tables and raising a boy who cried himself to sleep asking where his father was, Adaeze said, her voice shaking with a fury she'd been swallowing for 3 years. And you think I did this for money? Tae-Joon and Hannah went after the truth together. They cornered Minjun's assistant at a company event, and under pressure, she finally admitted on a recorded call that Minjun had paid her 3 years earlier to falsify the original hotel footage. He told me it was just business. Her voice shook on the recording. He said no one would get hurt. When it played in front of the full board, Minjun didn't need a monologue to unravel. The silence in that room did it for him. But Minjun had one final move left, and it was the cruelest one. He filed an emergency guardianship claim, using the fabricated financial records to argue Adaeze was an unfit single mother, trying to use family court to take Kian from her while the scandal was still burning hot in the headlines. In the courthouse hallway, Adaeze turned to Tae-Joon with tears she refused to let fall. If they take him from me because of a lie your family started, I will never forgive any of you. Not even you. Comment, second chance, if you think she should say yes to him. Comment, too late, if you think she should walk away. Let's see which one wins. Tae-Joon testified. Publicly. Completely. He told the court the truth about the divorce, about believing a lie instead of trusting his own wife, about 3 years he could never get back no matter how much money he threw at the silence. And then he turned toward Adaeze, not the judge, and said the only thing he had left. I'm not asking you to forgive me for her. I'm asking because I never stopped being her husband in every way that mattered, except the one that counted. The guardianship claim collapsed the moment the recording and the fraud went public. The board forced Minjun out within the week, and it was grandmother Kang herself who cast the deciding vote against her own nephew. Her first real act of protecting family over legacy in longer than anyone could remember. Hannah quietly ended the arranged engagement with more grace than anyone expected from her, and in an unlikely final scene, she and Adaeze parted as something close to friends, two women who had both refused to spend their lives as pawns in someone else's boardroom. The last scene is quiet, on purpose. No mansion, no press, just a small kitchen, Kian asleep on the couch between them. The city finally gone silent outside the window. "I'm not promising you it'll be easy," Tae-Joon said, his voice low, no cameras left to perform for. "I'm promising I'll never stop choosing you out loud." She didn't answer with words. She just let him stay. If you believe broken families can still find their way home, subscribe and tell me in the comments who deserve the real apology, Tae-Joon or his grandmother.